Hey, where'd the tunes go?
That was super abrupt. I was trying
What
to...
just happened?
Not terrible.
Oh, my goodness.
The joy of live, eh?
Yeah. I don't think you have your right mic on. I think you're still on your computer mic.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, that's coming through your regular computer speakers. Tap it. Yeah, it's that mic's not on.
What? Well, I'll try to fix that out. No, it says it's coming from it. I think you're crazy. Anyways, welcome back to another episode, everybody. My name's Emery Wolf. Joining me is Nick Lamb.
Oh, I thought I get to say my name.
Dude, say it. No. And we are just two camera guys. Or are we between two camera guys?
That's what Leroy called us. Between two camera guys. I actually thought it'd be kind of funny to call the show that, and you could put the guest always in the middle, and then it's between two camera guys.
I am not entirely sure how to do that, but I'm sure we could sort it out.
Yeah.
Anyways, Nick, we got a
big guest.
Yeah. Who you lined up today is Curtis Matwishyn. He's a photographer based out of why am I blanking on it right now? The movie, big movie that just came out. No, Waskesiu Lake. We'll have to ask him about Cocaine Bear. Anyways, he's been doing stuff for quite a few years. He's also a wildland firefighter, so I think he's going to have some interesting things to say. So let's bring him in next.
Yeah.
Hey, Curtis.
Welcome.
Hey. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's good. Did I get that right? Waskesiu, right?
That's right. Yeah, I live year-round Waskesiu Lake. One of the few lucky ones that gets to do that.
Wow.
I gotta ask, what came first, photography or firefighting?
It would have been photography, actually. My parents got me a fancy, not an SLR, but one of the ones that had kind of a lot of zoom back in 2007. I think it was a Nikon P90 or something. So got it as a graduation gift. And then I thought I was an excellent photographer by putting things onto silhouette mode at a sunset and having all the pretty colors with totally blacked out foreground. And then I did a 1 year of...
You've checked out Emery's Instagram, have you?
It's come a little bit since then, but yeah, no, I did photography first, did an elective in black and white film, and sunsets don't look so good in black and white, so had to learn the basics, and I've been shooting since then. So yeah, I guess it's coming on almost 15 years of shooting, 15, 16 years. So yeah, so I've been doing it for quite a while.
Wow.
Have you been based in Waskesiu your entire life then, or?
No, I grew up in Prince Albert,
Okay.
and then I started fires in Alberta in 2011, and I was out there until would have been 2019, actually, in the spring of 2019. Ended up getting a job here in Prince Albert National Park, so I've been here for the last 4 years. So I was just thinking it's the longest I've settled in a place since my childhood, so I guess it's pretty good out here. It seems to be able to hold me down a little bit.
Yeah, especially like you've always been in that north, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. The other question with that, which is a bigger rush for you, fighting fires or taking photos?
I'd say a bit of a different rush. Yeah, I would say it's the same thing. It gets your heart pumping when you have that thing in front of your camera, especially with wildlife is a whole nother thing. But even I kind of more specialize in landscapes. And when everything's coming together, you just get so pumped, like your heart starts pounding and you just feel the rush of endorphins. And there is adrenaline for sure. Like when you have things in nature like sunsets and northern lights, you have to act fast. So yeah, I would say it's a similar feeling with fires. There's a bit more nerves involved with that because obviously if you mess up, you don't just not get the shot. It's a little bit higher risk. So both rushes, one of them I would say I enjoy the rush a bit more photography. It's just part of the job and you have to kind of learn to deal with it with fires to act smoothly. But yeah, I would say different rush, but I've had big rushes in both of them for sure.
Yeah. So over the years, I'm just bringing up your Instagram page here. You've got quite a nice little set of portfolio shots here, landscape and animals, of course, and then the fire stuff in there. Do you think you'll do more firefighter photos in the future?
Wow, click on that firefighter one. Wow.
Yeah, so that's a friend of mine. I was working with him on the Jasper fire just this last fall. And I was lucky enough, I wasn't actually on a fire crew in that one. I was in a role that was more supervising the crews. So that allowed me to bring my camera around a little bit more and get some photos of the crews working on the fire line. So yeah, to answer your question, I would love to get more into documenting the work that the firefighters do. It's definitely very important work and exciting work, but it's not all glamorous like it's made out to be. There's actually a really good documentary for Guardians of the North, I think it's called. It just came out on City TV, and it follows Saskatchewan firefighters in their program. So it gives you kind of the realistic look. But yeah, for sure, I would love to do a bit more of that. I'm actually talking with our own staff here to see if we can make that happen. Always a bit of a gray area, obviously, with photos and work. So mixing those things together. So you got to make sure that they're on board with it too, as it is my employer. But yeah, so we'll see what happens in the future. Maybe even getting a press pass and be able to go to large fires would be an amazing thing. I know there's some great people out of the States doing really good work that I admire. So
that would be good. Looking at it too, like you've got a lot of nuance to your photos. How long did it take you to like sort of rein into that, that sort of the softness with the animals, yet, still in your landscapes, you're getting that nice contrast.
But with the light, I just love the light in there too. It's, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's it's good to hear from other photographers, because I don't know if you guys are like me, but I'm my own worst enemy. And I don't post a whole lot on Instagram. I got to get better at doing that, posting on social media. But I find it's hard to know when the photo's done, like I try to process my photos to make them look what I saw. And obviously when you shoot in RAW, your camera doesn't look like what your eye saw. And there's certain things that I'll definitely bump up the saturation, that kind of thing. But I still like it to look like a natural scene. So yeah, it took me a while. And I've still, like I myself, I'm not sure if I'm fully in love with my processing style, but I'm sure that's every photographer. But yeah, so I've been using Lightroom, I guess that would be probably since 2009, 2010. So just kind of keeping up with that, and just, I should probably watch a lot more YouTube and do more tutorials, but I've just kind of fiddled my way through and kind of just found a style that I tend to like. So I'm happy that you guys also appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's nice stuff. Let's get to the meat of this. You kind of ran into an experience, I will call it, last year.
Yes, sir.
First off was like the initial experience, and then everything that happened afterwards with it. So what you're known for is basically coming into a really close contact with a bear up around Waskesiu Lake, I believe.
That's right.
And the media attention you got over it was pretty wild. There was reports everywhere, so much so that even you sent us like a nice little PDF write-up of everything on it. But I kind of want you to take us through like what actually happened. How did you get yourself into that situation? What was going on?
Yeah, for sure. So that would have been right at the end of May. I was off work. I was just about to go back. I had COVID and a sprained ankle, so I was laid up for a bit. They're crazy, but luckily both of them were on the mend. So me and my wife, me and my wife were going out for a drive in the afternoon. We took our dog to go for a hike. And anytime I go for a drive here around Waskesiu or Prince Albert National Park, I always bring my camera with me, because you never know when you're going to run into something, any wildlife in the bush or a beautiful scene, beautiful lighting. So we went for a hike. It was pretty uneventful. And then on the way back, not sure if you're familiar with Waskesiu, but there's a place called Murphy's Bay, which is just south of the Lobstick Golf Course. So we were on the highway driving back, and there's an S-curve there. And on the south of the road there is a meadow, and we saw a bear in the meadow. So I had seen a few bears already, taken a few photos of bears that spring. My wife hadn't seen any. I had my camera, so we were excited. And I usually, if I spot a bear from the road, I'll just pull over to the side if I can, and then shoot right from my car. Safest thing to do. But this area, there's no shoulder, and a lot of people, it's kind of a blind corner, and a lot of people drive fast on that road. So I decided to drive ahead. I knew there was a spot I could pull off safely off the road. So got out of the car, grabbed my bear spray, my camera, and me and my wife walked down the road to see if we could spot the bear. But it disappeared. I hadn't seen it cross the road, but I'm very familiar with this area. We actually burn this meadow every spring if we can. So I knew that it kind of opened up behind the pond and that the bear had likely gone further south there. So that's when I decided, hey, well, I know a trail goes around. It's a public trail. It kind of hooks around to where on the other side of that meadow. So I thought, okay, I'll just go for a little walk here, only about 500 meters. So see if I could spot the bear and get a couple shots. So yeah, so that's where I went for a walk. The wind actually, I asked my wife first if she would like to come and come see the bear, and she was like, hell no, like that's a bear.
Yeah, that would be my response too.
Yeah. So just as I was about to leave, my phone was dead. So she gives me her cell phone and says, here, well, if you get into trouble, you can call someone. I said, well, I can't, like my phone's dead, so I can't keep my phone. She said, that's okay, I won't have a phone, but call somebody. So okay, whatever, like not thinking anything of it. So get out, sure enough, I get on the trail, I spot the bear. But so I'm about 100, 150 meters away from it, wind's at my back, blowing towards the bear. So I'm thinking, okay, this bear is going to smell me. And usually when that happens, they just tend to take off. Like they don't want to be around people. So that's what I was expecting to happen. So I was, kind of army crawled up off the trail behind some trees, and I was getting some photos of the bear about 100 meters away. And so then I could tell it sniffed. It sniffed the air, stood up, was looking in my direction, and then started walking to the trail. So I figured, okay, I'll go back to the trail, get a couple photos of this bear, and leave. But then came to the trail, it crossed, but then it starts walking down the trail towards me. So still 100 meters away, and you can tell it seems to know I'm there, but it just seems to be going on its way, just making its way between trees. So eventually I put down the camera, start yelling at it, hey bear, waving my arm, standing my ground, and it looks at me, but it does not care at all. So I have my bear spray out. So now I think this bear is going to walk down the trail, so I'll step into the meadow and just let this bear go by. So the bear keeps walking down the trail, but then as it got to where I got off the trail, it turned off and it came into the meadow. So that's when I knew I was in an encounter. So that's essentially what you're seeing here is midway through this encounter. So we're off the trail. The bear comes off the trail. I have my bear spray in front of me and it's walking towards me. And I'm yelling at it again, waving my arms, yelling, making myself look big. But it's still just walking steadily towards me, not charging, but walking. So I have my bear spray, but right now the wind is perpendicular. So you always want the wind at your back if you can when you're going to use bear spray. And it was blowing to the side and probably about 30 kilometers an hour. So I didn't want this bear just to casually walk right up to me. So I kind of switched tactics into yelling wasn't working. So now I just went into talking calmly to the bear, trying to walk backwards. And that's where I sprayed the bear, in the video. I was just talking calmly, walking backwards, and the bear kept following me. So I was ready to spray it. And in hindsight, honestly, once I got the wind at my back and once it came closer to me, I should have sprayed it earlier. But in all of my training I have with bear spray, they always talk about using the bear spray when a bear is charging you. So stand your ground, spray a screen in front of you, bear will run through the screen. Hopefully that deters it. If not, then as it comes closer, then you directly spray its face, basically full can. So I was kind of waiting for that moment. I've never had to deploy, but yeah.
So that's the first time you've actually used bear spray too?
So I've used it in training before, but that's the first time I've ever used it on an animal. So yeah, in training with my job, we have used inert bear spray. So just to see kind of how it sprays, that kind of thing. But that was the first time actually having to use it. Hopefully the last time I have to use it too. But
just to paint that picture a little bit more too. So the bear isn't a full-size bear, but it's still a pretty big bear, right?
Yeah. So that was probably our biologist here at the park. Figure it was about a 2 or 3 year old bear, probably about 150 pounds. So definitely not a big bear by any means, but big enough that you don't want it to be following you.
Like when they have like 5 times our strength or something, right?
Exactly. Like there is a few people that just say, "Oh, you could have just ran at it, or you could have just fought that bear off." But I've always said, like, all right, well, would you want to fight a police dog? Police dog is probably about half the weight of that bear. So, I mean, sure, I like my chances against a 150-pound bear versus a 500-pound bear better, but I still think I'm going to be on the losing end of anything above a 2-week-old cub, essentially.
Yeah. And then the video itself, because it's on a phone, so I'm assuming that bear is like extremely close to you, like within 10 feet a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think it probably would have been about 8 or 10 feet when I actually sprayed it. And a couple of times in the video, it runs not directly at me, but runs across from me. And it was within about that 10-foot range as well, which, yeah, definitely gets your heart pumping when that's happening. And you're just hoping that it'll lose interest and turn around, but didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
the closest I've been to a bear has been about, like, I'm going to say 20 feet. But, I mean, like, totally different situation. I was in a boat, the bear's on land, I'm fishing.
Yeah.
And, like, there's no way the bear can get to us. The motor, you keep the motor running, though, just in case that thing decides it wants to go for a swim.
Sure.
But yeah, and then mostly too, I think like when it happens, like you said earlier, they don't really want to be around you. So like most of the time they'll leave. And when you get in those situations, you can almost see the like surprise on their face, like, oh crap, you're there. And,
yeah. Usually bears are more afraid of you than you are a bit. Well, depends on the person, I guess. Some people,
Yeah.
I'm pretty bothered by it. But, no, this one seems to have lost all fear of people.
Yeah, one of the things I want to ask you here, so you clearly understand like bears and you know how they're going to act and react. You also knew the location really well. How important is that for people? Like thinking of like a photographer who wants to go out and that person who wants to start doing some wildlife photography. I feel like I can't understate how important it is to learn those things about the animals and the locations.
Yeah, 100% for sure. Like just understanding your animal subject that you're going to try to capture, both for knowing where they're going to be and their behavior, but also for your own safety of knowing what normal behavior is for an animal, knowing what abnormal behavior is, trying to not affect their normal behavior. Like the best wildlife photo encounter is one that you see an animal doing its thing, you take some photos, and then you leave and it's still doing the same thing. But yeah, especially on the safety thing, like when you're going to go out into the bush and you're specifically looking to photograph a large predator, if you're going to do that, you got to be prepared to know if things do go south, like they did in that instance, how you're going to react with that, and make sure you have the proper equipment to deal with that effectively for your safety and for the safety of the animal.
Yeah, I've never had I always feel like when I approach animals, it's always like a risk thing for me, and that's why I've never ever really gotten like too close to it. I think the closest like photo wise I've gotten was a juvenile owl, and I was within about 10 feet of that, and you could kind of tell like something was just off about it, so it kind of like got in, did my thing, and got him right.
Yeah.
And you know, I had a partner with me as well, which I also think is probably a good idea most of the time when you're out in the wilderness like that.
For sure.
Yeah. And
at the very least, have someone that knows where you are and when you're going to be back and that kind of thing, in case, even if you get hurt, twist an ankle or that kind of thing. Definitely important to have like a check-in system and know the hazards in the area.
What are those signs that bears show you that they're, you know, all of a sudden something's not right?
Yeah, so definitely like a bear that's confidently approaching you is not good. If they're kind of licking their lips or clicking their teeth, that's a common thing, or curling their lips back. If you watch the video, that was what really got my hair standing on end right at the end, and which made me think, okay, I have to use the spray now, because that bear, it was interesting behavior. I didn't feel too threatened before because it was curious, but also seemed a little bit timid. It wasn't approaching me confidently directly or charging me. So that's why I wasn't like, sure, it was an intense situation, but I wasn't so fearful. I was just trying to hope this bear lost interest, was ready to spray it if I needed to. and that kind of thing. But it wasn't showing me any of those signs of aggression of pawing the ground, bluff charging, clicking or grunting, that kind of thing. Huffing is another one. They'll huff a lot if they're angry or they feel threatened. So yeah, this was just kind of quiet. It didn't even seem like a hunting thing. It seemed maybe it was testing me, but again, I think that's kind of a young, curious bear from people I've talked to that have had encounters with bears that weren't great. Lots of times I think it is in that 2-3-year-old range when they just get kicked out of with the mom and they have to find their own way. So they're kind of testing people. And the other thing with this bear is it had gotten human food. So it had been kind of conditioned to not fear people. There was a photo of that specific bear. I almost guaranteed it was the same bear on the golf course the day of. And it was at the 10th hole. There's a snack shack there. And it was on its hind legs. It was licking up the condiments where people put it on their hot dogs. And the person was behind plexiglass, thankfully, and snapped a photo with their cell phone. Basically looked like face to face with that bear. And yeah, almost certain it was that bear. So so obviously it wasn't fearing people anymore. It was looking for food, which that's kind of what it seemed like to me. Like it was kind of just seeing if I would give it something potentially. But like I said, it's those signs of it constantly approaching, like clicking its jaws, anything, that seems aggressive. They would make you think like, I got to get out of here. And even like, ears kind of pinned back or looking very intently at you, that kind of thing, versus this bear at the start was not even looking at me all the time, but still just following my trail. But at the end, it starts to come directly towards me and curl its lips. So that's the two signs that I saw. Okay, this bear looks like it's starting to get more aggressive. So gave it a quick little squirt, and thankfully bear spray is effective.
So I'm wondering, sorry, go ahead, Henry.
I was just going to say that was one of the interesting things I thought when, like, that little press pack he gave out, talking about the bear being sort of like humanized and having experience around humans, especially at Waskesiu. I feel like that happens a lot. That's also why they trap bears and then, move them to other areas to keep them away from humans. So these encounters don't happen.
For sure.
We
actually. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just wondering if you can walk us through kind of I'll take a specific photo. You had a photo of a fox. It was pretty close, but you had a sunset in the background. Or it wasn't necessarily a sunset, but it was starting to get dark or light. Walk us through, that one right there with the fox. Kind of walk us through your setup for what you'll do to even get a photo like that. Like, because you've got light, you've got framing, you've got subject. You've got it's kind of everything there, right?
Appreciate that. No, I really appreciate that. Yeah, so that's one of our resident two one-eyed foxes in Waskesiu. We have one that hangs around on the south shore and one that hangs around on the north. So so that would have been just kind of going out, I think, after work one afternoon, around that golden hour. So if you get out an hour and a half to an hour before sunset, so you get that low angle light. So instead of it being really harsh, contrasty light, which is quite challenging in the middle of the day, you kind of get that nice golden color in the back there, and the light, it's not direct and it's more diffuse. So it just makes for more even lighting. As far as just the camera settings, I generally have my camera set up where I have automatic settings depending on what I'm seeing. I'll have a faster setup for, say, fast-moving wildlife, higher ISO, faster shutter speed, that kind of thing. And then I have one set up for more slow-moving. So that would have been more of the slow-moving and lower light kind of thing. So I still obviously try to shoot as low of ISO. As far as getting myself into position, with that one, honestly, around Waskesiu here, it's just going for drives. If you go for drives and you kind of know where to look, you start to know where animals tend to hang out. And one of the kind of unfortunate things about the park is foxes like that do get fed by visitors that are uninformed. It is illegal to feed animals, so definitely don't recommend anybody doing that. But it tends to make for animals that are less scared of people. So with a bear, that's very bad. With a fox, I mean, as a photographer, it makes it a little bit easier to shoot a photo, but I never feed wildlife. That's just not anything you should do. But that fox, I think, is fairly comfortable with people. Thankfully, it doesn't tend to beg like some other foxes do. It won't come right up to you. So that one still keeps a bit of a distance, or did at that point. I haven't run into him in about a year. I still see photos of him around, so he's kicking around, he or she. But yeah, so just going for drives, going an hour, making sure you understand your camera. And for me, I have my settings already on the quick settings.
Okay, so you've set up multiple quick settings.
Yeah.
You've had this is another question. Do you use a zoom or is that a prime? Because it's just so sharp. It's such a sharp photo. It's like, I would say it's a prime, but I don't know.
That is a zoom, I believe. I think that would have been taken with my Sony 100 to 400 G Master lens, which is a very sharp lens. I shoot Sony mirrorless, and pretty much, most of their zoom G Master line, they have phenomenal kind of sharpness and bokeh and just really nice renditioning, good contrast. So yeah, they're just all around. Well, all cameras, all brands are great. Just modern technology has come so far in sensors and lenses. So, I mean, I shoot Sony, but that's just because I'm in the ecosystem now. But the main thing is lighting, as you pointed out. Like, a camera or a lens can't make good lighting. So that's just kind of luck of the draw. There's 10 drives I take for every one drive where I get a photo like that. So that was just one of the better ones I've taken.
That's an interesting concept of patience to be a photographer. How do you deal with that?
I find wildlife, especially, patience and luck, and it's all about just putting yourself into the right places, and you just can't get let down. Even if sometimes I go through a drought where I'll go out 4, 5, 6 times without even seeing any wildlife, and then you see other people posting from that same day, I had an amazing experience with this. But I think as a photographer, if you've been doing it for a while, you know that you need perseverance. And then when you get that shot that you've been thinking of, or when everything just comes together, like for me, there's not really any other feelings like that in the world. It's just, you're living in the moment, and it just feels like the best experience, and it just gets you so stoked. So I think it's those 1 in every 10 experiences that makes the other 9 ones that are maybe a little bit disappointing. But I always think of it as practice as well, because you usually always find something to shoot. You might not have the right lighting, and I'm pretty picky with what I share on social media. I kind of always only want to share what I view as my best work. So I have thousands of photos that I've taken and I play around with, and even I get it back and I just make sure, okay, was my sharp, was I fully focused? Is everything sharp? Are these settings good? What was my ISO? And just make sure that I can become a better shooter, essentially. So even if you don't get the perfect shots, every time you go out, it's a little bit of practice, and you're still getting more comfortable with your camera. And lots of times with wildlife, you have to obviously, you're almost going by muscle memory. You don't have time to think of changing your settings and that kind of thing. So that's where it's really nice to have just a couple memorized. If you have memorized settings on your camera, lots of them have it on the dial that you can just click it to that dial. Because I've definitely had where I was shooting landscapes after sunset, and then I didn't change the settings, and then I saw a wildlife, and I just picked it up and started clicking, like I'm sure lots of people are guilty of. And you had an amazing shot, you thought, until you look, and everything was 1/3 of a second. I've learned the hard way a few times. Not having a movie card in your camera. That's been that when I got to watch a wolf devour a rabbit, actually take it down and eat a rabbit. So that was a hard lesson to learn, but it was it was a good one. I still got to experience it, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, Emery's phone always has memory on it, so you're fine.
Auto and rock, baby.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. I was just thinking about, like, with wildlife too. Like, I feel like that's an area where people, like, they feel like they should just get it right away. And like I said, going back to that initial comment, like, if you're not actually studying the animal, that's probably why you're not getting it right away.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
the best wildlife photographers I know are biologists. Like there's local photographer Jason Leo Bantel. He's a very successful photographer. Started his career as a biologist. One of my favorite photographers in the world, Dr. Hamilton Greenwood. He was also the head of the forestry program that I took. But amazing wildlife photographer. Thankfully, he's finally showing his stuff on Instagram and getting his work out to the world because he's got some amazing work. But same thing, he's got his doctorate in biology, so he really understands the animals, and that's, I think, how he gets the most amazing wildlife shots. Is he knows them, he knows their boundaries, when to back off, when an animal's accepting him into the environment, and he knows the signs of animal behavior. So just all that stuff, if you can research your subject, know where they're going to be, what their behavior is, you'll get more interesting shots, you'll be safer, it's better for the animals, versus just kind of trying to figure it out, going out there in some situations you're maybe not ready for. Yeah, definitely good just to be prepared and know about your subjects for sure.
The part I love about your stuff is that you've taken advantage of the surroundings. Like there's a lot of snow and cold, and so it would be quite easy to just go, too cold, too snowy, wait till summer. But it's like a lot of your photos show off the winter, which I love that.
Yeah, well, when you have snow on the ground for about 7 months of the year in Waskesiu, you gotta. No, I love being outside in the winter. Anytime, obviously. My biggest problem is I have bad circulation in my hands, so just the numb fingers, and like I'll even have them go numb before it's below zero. But that's the toughest challenge for me, is just keeping my hands warm. But also, when you have something in front of you worth taking a picture of in the winter, I forget about all that pain, and I'll be clicking away until I literally can't operate my hands anymore. So when you have something worthwhile in front of you, all that kind of uncomfortability.
So do you wear gloves, or what do you do when you're shooting out in the winter?
My setup is so I have really big, kind of puffy, almost mountain expedition mitts. And I usually put some of the hand warmers in there. I've actually just got some battery chargeable ones, which is nice, reusable. And then I'll have some thinner gloves underneath that. So when I actually need to use my camera, once I actually see something worth taking photos of, I'll have just thin gloves where I have dexterity so I can operate the controls. But yeah, if I'm hiking around or waiting in a spot, waiting for wildlife, I'll just be all bundled up and actually have my hands in the mitts, and then I go below. I know there's some photographers' gloves that kind of have where you can peel back the finger and you have that exposed, but gloves have just never worked for me. So I just get a tight fitting glove that then go into a mitt, and that's kind of my setup. But it's a challenge.
I've always worn mechanics gloves, and I've only had it once where it was basically a blizzard. We weren't supposed to be out, but I go shooting with a partner of mine, and we were shooting this barn somewhere, and just from my hand being on top of the camera and the wind blowing over, it froze the top of my thumb. It was the weirdest thing I'd ever experienced, just like one little centimeter squared thing of frozen thumb. She ended up freezing one of her fingers a little bit too. It was kind of funny that we both froze that day, but yeah.
Hope the shots were worth it.
Actually, funny you say that. It's probably one of my favorite photos of 2022. I think it was.
Yeah. I find if you put yourself into a situation like that that's very uncomfortable, lots of times it's a photo that other people aren't willing to take. So that's what makes those best photos is going out. Like there's one photo I have of paddleboarding in the Northern Lights, and that was just I set it up on a tripod and I got my paddleboard out, and it's pretty hard to stay still on a paddleboard for a long exposure photo. But that was actually in November, just before the lake froze, and it was about -8 or -10. So I think my wife and all of my friends all said I was crazy for going paddleboarding when it's in November, but I got a great shot out of it, and it was just the experience of it was spectacular. Like, yeah, there's like nothing else. Of paddleboarding into the Northern Lights, it was a dream come true. So, and I was able to capture it.
Oh, wow.
Or something like that. I couldn't find the paddleboarding one, So
No, that's all good. Yeah, that's another one from Waskesiu Lake. That was quite a few years ago, actually, but we did some winter camping up there, and another beautiful night. One of our land of the living skies nights in Saskatchewan, and yeah, some wind had just cleared off
Wow.
that ice patch, and so I put my headlamp facing down to illuminate the ice, and you get kind of the interesting effect of the glowing ice that I'm sitting on while I'm watching the Northern Lights.
if people out there are watching, they want to know what it's like, or they want advice, I guess, to go into an extreme location like this, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, so definitely know the forecast. So make sure that you have clothing that fits with that, and even I would say be ready for it to be quite a bit worse than that. Or if you are going to be going to remote places, you got to be basically okay with being self-sufficient. You never know if something's going to happen with your car or if an accident happens. So just making sure you have the right clothing, some first aid kind of gear, that kind of thing. It's usually just those little trips outside of your front door. You think you're only going to be gone for an hour or two. You don't bring the stuff, and those are usually the ones that people get in the most trouble with rather than the big expeditions. So just always being ready, especially in your car, just having the emergency stuff there, extra clothing, that kind of thing. Like we were talking about, just know your environment, know where you're going. If you're going on trails, make sure you have multiple ways to navigate. So whether that's your phone and a paper map or a couple of GPSs, that kind of thing, because obviously things can fail. Always good. I'm pretty guilty of relying on electronics and that kind of thing, but it always is good to have a map of those areas. And knowing the hazards, like, so that one was me being out on the ice in Waskesiu. So thankfully that was midwinter, but at the start of the season, the lake will freeze over, but there can be a time where it's not safe for you to actually go onto the lake. So knowing if there's ice reports or if there's people that are in the area that can tell you, like, they've actually checked the ice, or learning how to check ice yourself of ice depth and knowing what is safe to be on, that kind of thing. So yeah, just knowing the hazards of the environment you're going into and being prepared for them, and being prepared for things to go wrong, because it's when you're not prepared, that's when it's going to happen.
And I think that's funny because every single year you see a picture of a truck that's gone through the ice fishing. Every year, without question, there's at least one or two, right?
Yeah, it's either at the start of the season or when people are just trying to push it to get that one last day at the end of the season.
Yeah. I want to talk to quickly just about going viral. What was that like for you to have that much attention?
It was a pretty crazy experience, to be honest. Yeah, so basically, like, after the encounter, I went to the car and my wife was there, and she was starting to get a little bit worried. And I guess I was very calm, she said, when I came back, and she asked if I saw the bear, and I said, yeah, I saw it. Took some pictures and got into the car.
I saw
it. And she starts watching it, and she's, oh my God, like, are you okay? I'm okay, I'm here. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And originally I took that video to show her what to do if you encounter a bear. She's quite anxious with bears in the forest. She doesn't have the same education or experiences as me. So that's what went through my mind when it was happening, was I should take this video to show my wife how to react to a bear. If I need to use my bear spray, I can show that it's effective, that kind of thing. So she basically was just like, this is insane, this video. So I went to their cabin, showed my mother-in-law, same reaction, that's insane. So that night,
wow.
I started thinking, like, okay, this is obviously a pretty compelling video. I should share it because I think that this could be a very good learning lesson for people to carry bear spray, especially in black bear country. I know a lot of people carry it around grizzly bears, but even myself, before I moved to Alberta and lived in grizzly country, I didn't carry on bear spray when I was in Saskatchewan before I got educated on it. But yeah, obviously you can see why it's important to do that. So I thought, okay, I posted on Instagram, started to get a lot of traction on there. And then my number one time waster in my phone is Reddit. So I've had some success with my photos on Reddit in certain subreddits and how to go to the top before. So I know that that's just a way that you can get a lot of exposure on something that's new and interesting. So in Reddit, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar. I'm sure lots of the listeners understand Reddit. So you have different subreddits, which you post it to a subreddit. So I was wondering which one should I post it to? And then I remembered, well, there's a subreddit called That's Insane. And everybody that I've showed it to says that's insane. So figured it was a good thing that makes people say that's insane. And that's what people were saying. So yeah, I posted it, I think around 8 or 9 p.m. and started to rack up some upvotes on Reddit, and my phone was dinging and getting those little dopamine hits. And so yeah, video is trending. Cool, sweet. Like people are liking it. So I went to bed and then woke up and do like what a lot of people do when they first wake up, roll over and check your phone. And so go on to Reddit, and then I see like your post is the top post. So like, whoa, that's insane. That's a subreddit of 2 million people. Like, and my post is the top post. And I looked, just like, no, it's not your top post of That's Insane. It's top post of all of Reddit.
Wow. Wow.
It's just is it? I'm looking at this because my account. And I was like, no. And then I started to get some of my friends just like, dude, you're the top post on Reddit. Yeah, it was crazy. So then, yeah, I had. Started to get phone calls and emails, which at first I thought it was a scam, but so there's calling me, and I don't know how they got my phone number, but I guess they have their ways. So yeah, people are calling me, and there are companies that are asking, hey, did you shoot this video? Or are you the owner of it? Have you has anybody bought this video? So I'm just, no, yes, owner, no, I haven't sold it. And so they start asking, like, okay, like we would like to be the people to actually market your video, and we'll do a revenue share, that kind of thing. So I'm like, this is crazy. And
wow.
At this point I was still thinking, is this a scam? And then so I went back to Reddit, which I find is the best search engine, where if you search anything on Google that you want to know and then just type Reddit at the end, you'll learn what actual people have to say and not just like some clickbait kind of article. So on Reddit, I found out that, yeah, these companies are legit and they will market videos or photos or whatever. And then they'll do a revenue share. So they usually start with like a 50-50 or a 60-40. And I thought that was pretty good. Like, 50% I get profits for not doing anything. But then on Reddit, they say like, you can negotiate with these companies. So yeah, so I basically talked with a bunch of these, and I got 3 or 4 deals with companies that market videos. So yeah, so it's been interesting. I made some money off of it with that. And then obviously then, yeah, I just got picked up by media, and I had my 15 minutes of fame there, and felt like I was doing every local media outlet, and was on CBC National News, and I think global, yeah, just basically all the national news in Canada, and started being shared around the world. So yeah, it was, I think, 8 million views in the first 24 hours on Reddit, and then it kind of just took off from there.
Wow.
Yeah. And you got a sponsorship deal too, didn't you?
Yes, I am now actually working with Sabre Bear Spray. That was the company that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they reached out and just said, "Hey, we saw this video. Like, super happy you're okay. Like, that was crazy. And did it happen to be our product that you used? Because there's multiple bear spray companies, and turns out it was Sabre Bear Spray. And so I said, yeah, it was. And so they were interested in using it for promotional and educational purposes. Obviously, a viral video for a company, that's a pretty good thing to do. You can't just ethically go out and film something like this. It has to be, well, you shouldn't, obviously. Yeah, so that's interesting. So yeah, I saw their social media and that they actually worked with other people promoting the product. So I asked if they would be interested in me promoting the product for them, because as I said with this video, I really wanted more people to learn about bear spray, learn how to use it and carry it. And I don't know, I've never thought of myself of wanting to be an influencer, and for whatever reason, I've kind of viewed it as with a bit of a negative connotation. Maybe I'm just jealous, but I realized, okay, you can be an influencer for good things. So I figured, hey, if I can get more kind of traction and knowledge about people using bear sprays, it'll be safer for people. safer for bears. So yeah, we have a good little relationship going on. So I'm actually about to film another video here in the next week of how to use bear spray. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been a learning experience for sure. My first foray into video making. Up to about 3 a.m. trying to learn DaVinci to give them my first video the night before it was due. So it went okay.
That's awesome.
That's how all video making goes, I think.
Yeah.
I am a night owl, so
you could make 1,000 videos and you'll still be up 3 a.m.
yeah, it's true.
Is that video out yet?
So there's a couple of them on my Instagram. One of them is they just wanted me to talk about the video and share it, and just talk about promote the product of Sabre. And then another one is actually tips on staying safe in bear country here. So
okay.
So that was my first ever drone shot actually that I purchased.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's not a bad drone shot.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. That's for sure.
Yeah, so in this video, I'm just giving tips of how to stay safe in bear country. So just talking about always cleaning up your campsite, not leaving food out, putting food in bear caches, making noise while you're hiking, just all the things that some people may not know before they go out into the bush. So yeah, just kind of really pushing wilderness safety and especially safety around bears. After my experience, I feel like I can be a bit of a spokesperson for that. So just trying to get people out enjoying the wilderness, but doing it safely.
Sure. Nick, have you ever had a bear encounter?
No, I saw one from a car once, but that's about it. I didn't get out because that's insane.
That's insane. Especially without me. I actually usually like to carry an air horn with me too, and I didn't have it that time. But usually air horn would be the first thing, and then bear spray if you need it after that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's actually funny too, like kind of coming full circle for me. I think my first bear encounter was actually on Kingsmere Lake, so up by Waskesiu in the park. And we had portaged into Kingsmere through the portage area there, and we decided we're going to stop at the beach and have a lunch, right? So we stopped, had our lunch, cleaned everything up, and we got about 20, 30 feet off from shore, and a bear in her cub had come out. So what was a little unnerving was that there was a cub with it, and the fact that it was like that close together, which meant they were probably sitting there watching us and then waiting for us to leave to see if we left anything behind, which the bears left disappointed, but yeah, and then I've seen fishing, always fishing. I see lots of bears. You come across them, and I'm always happy that I'm a good safe distance away from them.
Yeah, and that's honestly probably the best way to view a bear, both for backdrop, if you can take a photo of it, of a bear on a lake like that's a fantastic image, and then obviously you should be able to boat away faster than a bear could swim. So it is, it's a nice safe place. If you can view it from a boat or a car, that's always definitely the best place to view or shoot photos from.
I've always thought that like doing I don't know, I keep thinking I should probably try and do it, but trying to arrange like photo/fishing trips, and not just getting people to fly up north somewhere to go see it, because there's
that would be amazing. I know I've thought of that too. It would be a dream to do photography for a living, and I think obviously animals and landscapes don't pay to take their picture, so you got to find other revenue streams. Prints obviously are great, but I think doing the photo tours, and especially we have so much beautiful wilderness here in northern Saskatchewan that it's kind of a well-kept secret, and I'm split because I'm selfish. I like it to myself, but it is a beautiful place. I think it's a good thing if more people can kind of get out into nature, and especially with mental health nowadays. That's a huge thing for me. Keeps me kind of even keel and balanced is getting my nature time and getting to have experiences out in nature. And I think it's really important in our modern life to be able to get out cell service and put that phone away and just enjoy nature. So I fully support you doing photo and fishing trips. I think that would be an awesome way to do it.
Just to be clear about things, the fact that you got sponsorship and some like internet money I think you've done better than most people who set out to be wildlife photographers.
Yeah. I was wishing that the first time I went viral would be for a photo and not a shaky cell phone video. But I'll take it. My Instagram followers did double since that. So unfortunately, sorry, Instagram followers. I will get better at posting more. I promise. I have 3 months of New Zealand that I have to start posting. So I'm looking forward to actually getting a proper routine and a workflow that will actually get me to be able to do things. Well, as you guys know, content creators, it's good to have things coming out consistently. And that's something I've always struggled with. And I think that's my main thing I need to get better at. I think I do have the experience and the skills and the content that I think people would enjoy it. I just have to get into that routine of myself of actually getting it out there.
Man, that's interesting. So before we were talking about the like how camera people don't actually like promote themselves well. Nick and I have found a loophole around this because all of us have ventures that have been successful, and basically you just need someone who is willing to work with you and crazy enough to keep that consistency going, because that's ultimately what happened with both of us. Like Nick and we're both inconsistent. We're your typical camera people, kind of flighty, up in the air, just doing our thing when we can. But Nick obviously has the other Nick doing things constantly for him, and I have Susan on my page doing constantly posting, and that's been huge for growth and everything.
For sure.
So I think that's a hack.
That's good. And it's kind of even like the going to the gym. If you can find a gym partner that keeps you accountable, it's way easier to let yourself down than it is to let somebody else down, kind of thing. So
that's true.
If you have somebody else that can help either you schedule something with them. I'm just terrible with self-control or organization. So when I'm on my own, it's a complete, who knows what's going to happen. So you're right. If you can just do that, get someone to work with that can keep you consistent, I think that's what I'm going to have to do as well. It is the bear guy. You can see the face this time, not just the face behind the camera.
Yeah, the question is if these were Nick or the other Nick.
It's not me, actually. So.
Oh, really? Myers?
Yeah.
Good. Happy Myers is watching. He's one of our 2 views. Curtis, before we let you go, what is next for you? What can people expect to see from you?
Well, I am going back into my next fire season here with Parks Canada. So I'm hopeful that I'll be able to get a bit more content with that. I would love to actually kind of have some education and a little bit of the behind the scenes look of forest firefighting in Canada. So I would love to kind of work on a project like that. Consistency, actually getting my stuff out. So yeah, just more wildlife and landscape stuff coming out. Hopefully not another bear video, but we'll be ready if that does happen. But I think questions will start being asked if that happens.
Yeah.
You can only rub yourself in grease once and get away with it. No, just a lot of people were saying, "Oh, he's got a backpack full of sandwiches. Like you were baiting this bear." I wasn't baiting the bear. It's a joke.
Yeah. They're not sandwiches. They were subs.
Those sandwiches were for me, not the bear.
Yeah.
No, I would love to just get more consistent. Just getting out there as much as you can. Like I go through ups and downs of there'll be times where I don't touch the camera for a month or 2. So trying to schedule myself just to make sure I do 1 or 2 photo days a week and really get that stuff out there. So my social media should become more active. So I'm putting it on. I'm putting it out there. So it's now in the internet forever. So I'm going to hold myself accountable, and you guys can shoot me a message too and make sure.
I look forward to it. There's a lot of good stuff here, but just needs more.
Yeah. Actually, I thought one more thing, Curtis. You talked about mental health and getting out there and taking breaks and stuff. I feel like that's something like a lot of photographers don't use, or people who want to create content don't do enough of. Do you have any recommendations for that, or how you're approaching it or anything?
Yeah, so I'm very open with mental health. I think a lot more people need to be. It kind of used to be a taboo subject, and I even used to find it very hard to talk about. But I'll be the first to say it. I have experienced some pretty hard mental health challenges in the last few years. COVID, I think, was rough for a lot of people. So yeah, main thing is it's hard to admit it, or hard that you might need to get help. But just kind of trying to check in with yourself, see, is this normal? Like, should I be feeling this way? And then trying to find things that make you feel good, that are healthy for you. Like there's certain things that you can fall into that can numb the pain or that can distract you, but that in the long term are just going to make you feel worse. So for me, exercise, photography, just talking like with friends, that was honestly, I tried therapy a couple of times and it didn't work for me at that point. I just wasn't ready to open up. But talking with a trusted person that was also going through things was the first time that I actually considered taking medication, and I ended up doing that, and it helped me immensely. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, so just kind of being more open to talking about your own mental health, talking about it with other people, just doing kind of what I'm doing of just being, trying to get rid of the taboo of it. Through my whole, like I was depressed and anxious for a few years, and through all of that and talking with friends, I actually figured out that I have ADHD that was undiagnosed. I was diagnosed at 32 years old. So for me, like it was a whole paradigm shift. Like it was life-changing to get that diagnosis and realize I'm not just lazy or weak-willed. I can be very determined, and I can get a lot of work done in the right circumstances, but there's just certain ways that my brain works that are going to be a lot more challenging than the typical person. I was comparing myself to a neurotypical person. So I think just basically, if you are struggling, it's okay to admit that. There's so many resources out there now online, that kind of thing. That's where I started. And if you have friends you can chat with, that's kind of, the best thing. And then just keep up with your hobbies. Like you were saying, I think there is creative content creators. They don't take breaks, and that can be hard on their mental health, especially when you're playing the social media game. It can be brutal out there on the internet. So I myself, that's why I think I don't do as much social media. Is I love to get out there. I love to go shoot the photos. I like to be in nature. And it's the other stuff that kind of stresses me out. And I'm sure that's people that are more successful and more that have a better schedule and keep themselves on track. I think it would be important to take breaks, know when you need to take a break. It's okay to put the camera down. But for me, I noticed when I was in a bad spot, my hobbies would just go to the side. I wasn't enjoying them as much. But then when I was able to get myself to a better position and I pick up the camera again, and you just feel that joy of doing something you love, makes you just sad that you ever kind of put that down, or that mental health stole that from you. So it's important for everybody to look after their own mental health and find ways to do that. And for me, photography and nature is definitely one of those things.
Yeah, I actually think photography is probably a good way for a lot of people, like just your average Joes, to get out. And Joes and Jills, I don't know what the female.
This is just two camera guys, Emery.
Anyways, Curtis, one last thing before we let you go. You had a calendar sale here. What I couldn't figure out was how to actually buy a calendar.
Yeah, so I was just doing it through DMs there. I think it says, please send me a message if you're interested in ordering. Okay. So yeah, I was just doing it kind of through my messages and email. I've been doing it actually every year since I think 2012 or 2013 was my first one. So it's just through there. I hope to have a website up and running by next Christmas, and actually get done a little bit sooner than I normally do. It's usually just everybody asking me questions of when's the calendar coming that actually lights the fire underneath me to do it, which is unfortunately another symptom of ADHD, of finding it hard to start things. But once you get that pressure and things are more comfortable to not do it than it is to do it, that's when I actually do things. So I'm going to be finding ways to work around that. And yeah, I'll be getting a website up and running this year. But as of right now, it's just through my Instagram and email.
Awesome.
I think that's it.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you guys very much for having me. It was great to meet you, and maybe we'll be chatting again. I do love chatting photography, so yeah, I'll be following along for sure. And thank you so much for bringing this to Saskatchewan and bringing I'm looking for other photographers and like-minded people too and content. So it's great to see it coming out of our beautiful home province.
Yeah, we'll have a meetup one of these years. We've always talked about it.
I would love to meet with you in person. And we'll show you some things around here. Hopefully,
that'd be great.
A bear sighting that's a little bit safer than the one that I had, but even if it's not.
Nick, if you were to go up north and actually take a photo, would you want to take a photo of a bear?
No.
I don't think I would either. Like, it just feels too intense.
Yeah, it's insane.
Make you look closer than you actually are. If you're going to be a wildlife photographer, I definitely recommend investing in a good zoom lens, especially if you want to get close to bears or wolves or anything.
I need a doubler for sure.
That 2-jump teleconverter too, for sure.
I think that's the lamb coming out in Nick, eh?
Yeah. Awesome. Right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Curtis, for joining us. I'm going to throw you out for a second, but we'll probably talk on the other side, Curtis.
Sounds good. Cheers, guys. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nick, that was good. That was fun.
That was awesome. It's fun.
Cool.
Like the mental health stuff at the end. I wasn't expecting it. It's a good touch.
Yeah, it is. And photography always seems to be one of those things. So with that said, when are we doing our next one? Are we going to do it in 2 weeks?
Yeah, let's get it going.
Are you going to book a person?
Yeah. Do you want me to book somebody?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we could do like that, because it's just as famous as that podcast that Smartless. You know how they bring on the guest and the other guy doesn't know?
I wouldn't say no if you just like, I got this. Right.
Just me with a wig on or a mustache.
Anyways, we'll try and sort it out, but this is the first episode of 2023, and hopefully we have a lot more coming.
Sounds good.
So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, everybody.